For those of you I haven't met yet, I'm Eden. I'm gonna let you guys introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. My name is I'm a Chicago native, eldest daughter to immigrant parents, Mexicana, triple fire sign, and event producer. Period.
Sweet. I'm Seth. I'm actually from the West Coast. I'm from LA. I moved out here like 4 years ago. I'm a photographer, content creator, event producer, child of immigrants as well. Virgo sun, Sagittarius moon, Pisces rising.
Well, shit, if we're doing that, I'm a sun, Leo rising, Leo moon.
No tea. Love. I'm Eden. I've been in Chicago for a little over a year now, so I'm a little bit on the newer end, and I've just bounced around my whole life, basically. But I'm coming here from Brooklyn for the last several years, so excited to be here. I run a Sapphic Collective and studio up on the north side in Ravenswood called Garden of. Sapphic means lesbian and lesbian adjacent. For those of you not part of the community, I know that term is even in the community. Sometimes people are like, hello. But I'm super excited to have you all here tonight. It is a topic that I personally can write an entire dissertation on, which is creating really intentional community outside of just throwing good events. Because while it is hard to throw a good party, everyone can throw a good party if you bring together a good team, but there is something really beautiful and so needed about building a genuine community that is both safe and fruitful and full of connection, especially, in the world we live in right now, post-COVID. We're all itching for that a little bit more. So super excited to talk about kind of our experience with that, what that looks like. We're gonna move through a couple different topics. I'm not a big let's save all questions till the end, girly. My goldfish brain would never retain a question that long anyway. So we're gonna move through a couple different topics and would love to more have like a conversation at the end of each little bite-sized chunk rather than waiting till the end. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I know not everyone is from down here, so thank you for traveling. Thank you for those that live down the street. Thank you so much for spending your your Wednesday evening with us. We're super excited to get to know you all. So yeah, we'll get started. I would love first to kind of hear a little bit more about what you do, especially as the only one on the panel that is a Chicago native. How did you get started? What did those roots kind of look like here?
So I come from comedy. So I started with improv comedy, and I've been doing that for about maybe 8-9 years now. The cool thing about improv is that it's based in community, right? You have your comedy, which is stand up, people get up and just kind of talk. But with improv, it's all about a team. It's all about working with each other. So that has been embedded in me since the jump. And when I started this company, I totally missed that, by the way. I run a production company called Production. My middle name is Damari, so it's structured after Dama, right? The first show that I did under that company is called which is a Latina improv show. I'm a big believer in I don't need to reinvent the wheel, I don't need to overcomplicate things. We just need a Latina presence in theaters, period, point blank. And so I feel like it just became pretty natural to kind of put a team together and just start working from there. And so everything kind of snowballed after that. I then have which is a queer variety show that's based out of Dorothy. Thank you, Miriam. She's over in the back, thank you. And then my latest production is called Lipstick Lounge, which is a full Sapphic takeover at this theater called the Theater, which is the very first place that I ever did comedy at. So it's very full circle to take over that space. That space holds about 500 people, and every time we have a party, we aim at about 250 women, queer women. And I'm never to the point where it's like, hey, not everybody can come, because I'm a big believer. First of all, I blinked and I did not know that we were as segregated, right? The lesbians over here, the masks over there, the bisexuals over here. I'm like, when did that happen? And so me being later to the Sapphic nightlife scene, I'm just here to have community. I'm not here to take ownership. I'm not here to say that my party is better than anybody else, because that's not the way that improv and community works. And so being from Chicago, I'm really grateful because I have a built-in friends that are DJs. I pull from my friends, right? So whether it be vendors, whether it be the DJs, whether it be the performers, I'm not asking people who I've never met before. I'm simply just asking my friends and asking them to perform at my shows. So it kind of just felt like a natural progression to put on these shows and these events. And I love being from Chicago, best city I've ever been in. Matter of fact, reason I won't leave, actually. So, yeah, hell yeah.
How do you feel like you kind of bridged the gap from, I think something we see a lot, one in the queer community, but I think in communities in general, and especially in nightlife, is it can tend to get really quickly. There's a tendency for people to show up with their friends and stay with their friends, which obviously is kind of the antithesis of something that is more community forward. Where you were starting everything by bringing in your friends, how do you, like, was there kind of like a foundation or mission and goal to make sure that it didn't stay within your friends or didn't feel like, hey, it's that friend group that runs things and we're all kind of down here? Almost like I'm very anti-VIP section, sorry, hot take. But like, how did you kind of overcome maybe that almost feeling that way or easily could have felt that way because it was a friend group?
Yeah.
Like, how did you kind of like make sure everyone felt included in that?
Yeah, so with that first show, Escándalo, one of the things that we do, we have our team, but every week we would ask a member from the community to play with us so that it was always evolving, it was always growing, and it could just be as small as that in whatever capacity of event that y'all do, whether you have like a person guest starring or XYZ. My friend and I were just laughing about this. She's like, people don't host anymore. I love hosting a party, meaning every single one of y'all that walked in here, I greeted y'all. I connected with y'all. And it's literally as simple as that, as looking y'all in the eye saying, hi, my name is Kenny, and making you feel warm and invited. Because more than anything, even if you guys forget my name, you guys remember how I made y'all feel. And it's as small as that, and it's not reinventing the wheel, it's literally just eye-to-eye contact.
Love. I'm like, this is our little introvert baby. Sorry, I'm speaking for you. This is also like my platonic husband and roommate. I would love to hear from you some more of, as an introvert, I'm like, me and Kenny are Sagittarius is down. Like, yeah, we're at the door like, when you come into spaces, either like as an attendee or when you're producing things, how do you feel like you make people feel a part of your event without necessarily like expanding that energy of like fire sign, like let's go all night? Like how do you kind of connect with people in that way without draining yourself or like putting yourself out?
Yeah, like for me specifically, I'm sure she was saying hi to everybody and I just went like this to everyone that walked in. That's kind of more my tea. That's kind of what I end up doing with most of the people that come to my events. I will say a lot of my events, I like know a lot of the people. I'm really good at like one-on-one connections. So like a lot of what I'm doing is like making these connections first and then bringing them into a space. And then like everyone in the space kind of knows me, and then the people that don't, there's like that connection that are like, oh yeah, Seth's over there. We all know him. He's sweet, go talk to him. He might look a little sad and scared in the corner, but he's really lovely. But yeah, no, generally it's like for someone who is introverted, even like going into parties, and the host, I don't need a lot from the host to like feel like I'm welcome. It really is just like, oh, if I get a smile or like a hey, thanks for coming, I'm feeling lovely. And to be fair, that might be all I want from the host, truthfully. It's just like a hey, thanks for coming. And I'm like, oh, beautiful, thanks. And then I'll like have a good time, and I can like be alone the entire time, but like I know that the host like acknowledged me and knew I was there, which like can go a long way for me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's too, like, I know for me, there's been a plethora of parties that I've been to, I don't know how you guys feel about this, where I enter the space and there isn't a designated host, or it's a faceless brand. And while I can totally understand the pros of that from like a personal standpoint, I personally have a really hard time connecting within those parties because there's not someone to reference. I don't necessarily know the ethos of why they started this and what's going on. And so I think like there's a lot to say about the fact that like you can be introverted and you can be very extroverted, and there's still a way to make people feel at home. I think especially, I hate using COVID as a reference. I know we're all so sick of talking about the pandemic, but truly the way that humans connect with one another after that stage in time is very different now. And it's very, very hard to connect with a brand or a business or a collective that we don't know. Like it feels like Bezos. It's like, okay, like who am I just paying to have reserved this space essentially and just cram people in it? And I think that's like a really amazing connection point pre-events, anything really, right? To give your audience, and sorry, there was a giant rat walking around this. Me just so locked in. But yeah, it gives your attendees and like your community this opportunity to come in feeling like they're meeting a friend, which I think is truly how we create this feeling of community within parties. There's raves we can go to if we need to just like dance the night away and not connect with anyone. But it's really beautiful to go into a space having some sort of familiarity with who I'm going to be greeted by, whether that is like me, full conversation about your entire life story, or like a smile to just know that you are like welcomed by someone that's there. Any questions? Any questions or thoughts before we move on to the next question? Yes.
I'm just curious, like, what do you feel like, should we brought up a good point of kind of like sometimes with faceless brands, you know what I mean, like there isn't direct people or things that you don't know the faces who could be reading you, and that does sometimes come often with like personal protection or just like, whatever people's personal boundaries are in regards to curating things. But what do you feel like, if you have an idea, or any of you have an idea about what could be the boundaries of something like that? Like, let's say you are hosting something that centers marginalized people, and there is kind of like a safety factor to like the programmers or the attendees of the people. What do you feel like, if you guys think there is an appropriate balance to have that personal protection while also still making sure that that community factor is still there? If you have any ideas to it, I guess you're not.
Yeah, I think it depends on the collective, right? I think there's a couple of collectives that are just front facing. Like I know that Eden and I are like always posting online and just kind of talking to camera, and so it kind of like, for our example, it's like, it's at this point like I can't hide, right? But for brands that are bigger or not, and they don't choose that, I think they still have pros and cons to things. I think I'm a big believer in my sense of activism is not going to look like someone else's. I can't impose what I believe a party or thing should look like on somebody else. All I can do is walk away, and unfortunately, with how I'm feeling. Like if I left feeling like, damn, like that actually did affect me, then that shows how I move through the world with brand new information. But if it didn't affect me, like I can't fault somebody for not doing things like I can. I don't know, was that, I think it's just apples and oranges sometimes.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts on this. So, like Seth mentioned, did you mention that you were a photographer? Yes. That's how Seth and I met. We were both in the wedding industry for a really long time. So, while being a wedding photographer is so different than throwing lesbian events, for sure, I have had like a frontward facing brand for the last 10 years. So, that has been my entire 20s. I started full time when I was 20 years old. I'm turning 30 this year. So I have seen really beautiful moments in social media and really, really dark ones. And something that has been really pivotal to me is coming up with internal rules on what is going to be best for me when using social media. And I used to do business coaching and consulting, and I used to always tell my clients that like, there's no wrong way to do social media. If anyone has told you there is, they're lying and they're trying to sell you something. There's no wrong way. There's so many platforms, there's so many ways to do things. And so what's important is before you go into this media planning, content planning, brand planning, is to kind of come up with these internal boundaries of like what feels good to you, because the internet is dark, things are gonna happen. So for me, I came up with several rules and they've served me so well over the last decade. One is that I never share my friends and family on my brand accounts or anything business facing. You will never see my friends, you will never see my family. I made a horrible mistake of doing that once. And like, even just without thinking, people will go through and follow everyone, right? So like in my situation, I had the same last name as my siblings who were minors, and then people from across the country were following my siblings that were minors, and that's just not okay, right? So that was one rule for me of like, I'm just never going to impact my friends or family's life because I choose to be public facing. Another is that, and we can talk about this a little bit too, I love being transparent with my audience. They know when I'm not doing well, they know when I'm thriving. I actually am also very honest and upfront about like the backside of even like our finances and what that looks like and how we run things. And so I came up with a rule for myself that if I'm going to share something personal or even business front or facing, it has to both benefit myself to share it and the audience receiving the information. If the audience is not gonna benefit from it, but I'm gonna feel better, that's for a therapist. Like, that's for friends and family. If the audience is gonna benefit from hearing the information and I'm gonna feel like shit after, they can learn that lesson elsewhere, right? Because that's just a recipe for me to end up getting burnt out. So I think that can look really different for everyone, but really doing the internal work of like, what would be fun for me to share, right? There's so many ways to be a frontward facing brand without ever showing your face, ever talking about your life, right? There's so many ways to even just document your life in a faceless way that still makes people feel like they're a part of something. So you really get to draw those boundaries, right? Like, God knows I'm on social media 100 times more. It's my online journal than Seth. And Seth will still post once a month and his followers eat it up like it's the first meal they've had in weeks. Like, so, but that's because they're connected with him in the way that he's chosen to show up. So yeah, I think there's a lot to do with that, and there's never going to be a right or wrong way, really. I think truly like the core principle is just going to be like, how can I connect with people in a way that is going to serve me, serve them, and be sustainable in a long-term format? Do you have any questions, thoughts?
I think I'm a really private person, so like front facing things, even at events, like me going up to someone that I'm hosting is a lot for me. So like what I was saying, like I put a lot of my effort into beforehand. So I do on social media, like I talk to everyone that talks to me. I respond to every message, I respond to every comment. I do all that stuff to make it easier for me to not have to like do as much in person. Because they're like, oh, I know him, or like, oh, we're friends, or like that like, I don't hate it. I know a lot of other people do. But like what do they call it when you think you're friends with someone on the internet?
Parasocial.
Yeah, parasocial relationships. I don't hate it because I kind of prefer, I'm like, oh, they think we're friends, and I don't have to say hi, like, in person. So I'm like, that's lovely, but like, they know that I like give the effort even in like separate ways. So like, I've hosted faceless events or like events that like don't have my name when I just have a brand, or like I've started a brand for like workshops or like random things that I'm doing everything for, but it like is just that name because like I don't like to share a lot about myself. People will meet me in person and be like, oh, I didn't expect you to be like that at all, because like the way you like exist online is different, and I'm like, I like that sort of thing. So I do think there's like space to kind of have that, even like to have like, I know again some people don't like it, like I have an online personality and that is easier for me and that's safer for me and that's more comfortable for me. So like I enjoy that. So I think that's like there's options to like kind of go around like however you want to do this like event sort of situation. But it's not distant, like non-genuine for me to like exist that way on the internet either. But yeah.
Great question. Thanks. Does anyone else have any thoughts, questions, concerns? Okay, T. Me feeling like a teacher a little bit. Okay. I think like a good jumping off point though, even from that discussion, is just obviously like, I know you mentioned like there's hundreds of people at your parties. We throw things that are from 20 people to 600 people. And obviously like at a party where 700 people are coming through the door, I'm not meeting everyone. How do you guys feel like you can be or are intentional in making sure that your patrons and community also feel set up and like ready for success to almost like keep that ethos alive, whether you're there putting it together with your hands on or not?
Yeah, I'm actually really grateful because I have someone from my team in the audience, but first of all, bringing on a team. Like I said, eldest of immigrant parents, like I thought that I could do everything myself. And here's the thing, I can, but there are so many things that are important to me that will fall to the wayside. And my ethos is like, again, how I make people feel. So every pre-shift I have in an event, I'm telling every single person on my team, compliment people, make people feel good. Literally like lift them up so much, and the fact that I have a team alleviates the burdens of the things that I have to do so that I am able to talk to people. And like I will talk to anybody. I literally will talk to anybody, and not only that, I will be like, hey, have you met this person? And then find a common jumping off point, and that is just something that I feel like comes natural to me. I think growing up is realizing what your gifts are and then how you can contribute that to the betterment. I'm a connector. I can see where people are bound to meet, and I love setting them up for success. So I think again, it's just having a team, and then having a team that understands your ethos and your values, and having them enforce that. And I trust everybody on my team so that I know that they will de-escalate anything if anything pops off, but also that they are going to make my people feel good, because that's what I'm calling for in community. Like, especially right now, I just posted a video to people bringing them for Escándalo. I was like, to my Chicago Latinos, when was the last time y'all felt joy? Like, how are you taking care of yourself? Same thing for my queer brand. Like, I'm talking to the queer Latinos, I'm like, how are you taking care of yourself? Because I don't just believe that we're doing things for an event, I mean, to have fun and whatnot, but I think that it's impossible to fight a good fight if you're pouring from an empty cup. And so I think that that's what leads me, and that's what motivates me, and as long as my team knows that, I know that the people at my party will be taken care of.
Love.
Yeah.
Love. Yeah. Thoughts?
What was the question?
Just like your thoughts on setting up, rephrasing it completely different this time, but like your thoughts on setting up community in a way where they can kind of uphold that ethos even if you're not present, like making sure everyone's behaving that way.
I mean, similarly, I'm always a big fan of a team. I think like having people there to support you and like what you want the event to be and like, yeah, the community of it is really important because I'm like, again, me as an introvert, I'm like, you guys can go do that for me and I will talk to a couple people and it'll be really lovely. I like that, but as I was mentioning earlier, I set a lot of my stuff up as far as like the energy or like what's gonna happen at these events on like social media. I'm a very big like social media kind of person. I'm good at it, so I like to do it. But yeah, just like kind of like letting people know beforehand even like what it's gonna be like, or like posting a lot of like videos and like that sort of thing of like what we've done and that like to make people feel safe or comfortable at these events. But yeah, I'm like generally I think just like the beforehand, like the marketing even is really important for parties to kind of like let people know how they're expected to feel at them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like one of the biggest things that's important to me and that I always like advise people on when they're really trying to focus on community, especially within the event space, is like you are the head of the ship. Like it truly is entirely you and your team's responsibility to set what the standard is for everyone else coming into the space. So before you host anything, or maybe even before you host your next event, if you're still feeling iffy on it, like sitting down and being like, what are the core principles that I want people to experience here? And also what are our non-negotiables, right? So I know we said big three, almost Sagittarius with a Cap rising, and 50% of my chart is Sag and 50 is Cap, which if you don't know anything about astrology, I'm a menace. I work hard and I play hard. And so I love having a good time, but then that Capricorn comes in and I'm like, you're gonna uphold this like community of levity and safety, or you are going to leave. And not leave the community, but you're gonna leave the event. So something that has been life-changing and I think it's completely revolutionized like what we've done with our events and how people feel in them is like I could not be more direct and honestly maybe like over communicative about exactly what you're walking into. So you don't have to follow me, but if you go to gardenov.collective, like you will see before every single event, I will put out like a 15 slide protocol of like no clicks, no drama. You're gonna fight with your ex because yes, lesbians can be messy. You're taking it outside. Like I do not wanna see it. I do not wanna hear it. If you come with your friends, you're gonna make new ones. Like we have a ton of people that come alone. And I am just like so over the top communicative that like this is a place to meet new people and to genuinely connect with each other and build community. Like this is not just a party. And because of that, like we don't really have people blacking out. We don't ever have clicks. Like it truly is like we did a back to school event the other day and I got a ton of emails after because we did like yearbook photos. And like there were several people that came alone that were like, I just wanted to email you because like I was behind a huge friend group in line getting their yearbook photo and I didn't know them and they still welcomed me in to like take the group yearbook photo with them. And like I truly am like could not be louder about that being the intention of how we run things. And it does probably sound extreme. Like it really does. I'm like, fight with your ex, take it outside. Like we're going outside. But we're very, very blatant and bold in what the expectations are, and that sets everyone up for success, right? And there's so many ways to do that. There's the ethos, there's the safety protocols, like it's no stranger to anyone. Like we are in really scary times right now. So especially those of us that are working with more vulnerable communities, right? Like we are so clear on what our ICE protocols are, exactly where your exit points are going to be, what the systems are, especially where we're working with queer spaces. I tell people exactly how many security staff they can expect and where they're going to be placed. It is so important to me that people walk into the space knowing exactly what they like, one, are expected of them, but like two, like what they can expect from others. It's a really beautiful thing to walk into a space and be like, oh my God, these people don't know me, but like I really care for them and I know they really care for me because otherwise they wouldn't be at this event. So I think like, I'm not as good at outsourcing for sure. I need a team down bad. Seth just joined, thank God. But like that's almost kind of one of my ways of like lifting that away from my responsibility of needing to see all 700 people at the night. Yeah.
I do have a question about how you go about it with cultivating your team and ensuring that your team is qualified to execute your event, your vision. it's not necessarily having a trust issue. I can trust someone, but how can you ensure that they have the qualifications to be hired for the job?
I'm going to turn that to you.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I'm a big believer in seasons and nothing's permanent, right? I think that there's a place for people to kind of like shadow, to see if they're a good fit, instead of being like, you are hired within the first time I meet you. I think there's a good trial and error period. I'm really grateful that a lot of the people that I do work with are very aligned with me, and also kind of funny because, you know, we are zodiac girlies, and the girl who I work with, her birthday's a day after mine, and so she is just a solid, I watch them. I watch the way people work, and especially anyone that's on the team, they have been to a show. How can I bring someone onto my team if they don't know all three of the brands, if they don't know what we're doing? And so I think it's not just like who they are in a resume, it's what they're bringing to the table and how are they making you feel. Because personally, like, listen, the way that I work is not for everybody, but I feed off of energy. If I feel like I'm working with people that share the optimism that I do, or like, hey, things are gonna be okay, then we can solve anything. But if you're coming to the table with like this energy of like, I have to lift you up, then I'm doing double the labor here. And so I think it's watching the way they move, watching the way they treat other people. And I actually was just, my girl, she's a corporate recruiter, and she was helping me put together some things, and she was like, they have to meet everyone else on your team. So if it's not just you who they'd be working with, and they're working closely with someone else, how do they interact with that person? So I think it's also helpful to be like having one-on-one on them, but also seeing how they work with people that are very closely intermixed with you, and then seeing how they work. So yeah, I don't think nothing's permanent. If after 1 or 2 times it doesn't work out, thank you so much, it did not work out. And then also too, like bringing your team, bringing whoever you're working with, so that you can get a second opinion and not just like yours, you know? So date for a little bit.
Oh, literally.
Yeah.
Literally. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh no, I would probably say something similarly. During photography, I had a team of 8 of us that would like shoot for me. So like that's also like a big thing of like trust and seeing like they would do. But it was like the same. I'd have them shoot with me. I'd go to stuff with them, or have them shoot for me and just watch them and see how they did and how they interacted with people. And yeah, I'm like just kind of going through that and just seeing and making sure that they are upholding what you want them to, and not being afraid to be like, well, that's not gonna be okay, sorry, bye. And I'm like, and being really transparent about like being transparent about like that you are like dating them, or like that you're not part of the team yet, or like this is not happening actually yet, but I'd love to bring you on for a bit to see if you can kind of uphold what we want to do here. And if not, then I think it's an easy break if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and also just one more thing, a learning lesson that I have when I started the company 2 years ago now. I tried to bring on interns a little bit ago at the beginning of the year, and I wasn't fully clear with what I needed from them. And so I think it's also like part of our responsibility to say, hey, this is exactly what we're needing for you. And again, going back to a non-negotiable, I think like that is all a combination of things that we need to present them, because it's all about setting each other up for success, right? And so it's like, if we can clearly like say what we need from them and how we need them to integrate into what we're doing, and then also, yeah, like having be like, hey, we'd love to have you for like a freelance gig of a month or something like that. That way there's no pressure on you to let anybody else down. And then there's like, it's like, what's it called? Like duration dating? No. Damn it. It's like, you know when you're dating someone, you know they're gonna move away, and so you're like, okay, exploration dating, thank you. Okay, so yeah, I would say that, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, anytime I have hired on people, it is always from some sort of internship or volunteer period first. And that doesn't mean they have to be unpaid. Like, you can still pay them, but be like, hey, this is not like a contract or a hired position. So through my previous business, I had 2 girls that worked for me for several years, and both of them started as interns and volunteers. And I think that's something that's really massive where we are working in community spaces, because like Kenny said, like, if you've never been to one of my events, or you're not like particularly passionate about what I'm doing, it's not gonna work. Like, it is not just like no offense to baristas, love down, but I'm like, that's a clock in, clock out, right? Whereas doing things in community spaces, like that bleeds through everything you do. That is very much a personality piece. You have to be I'm like, one, you have to be so obsessed with this job and hosting in order to do it. Like, truly, I'm like, it's borderline Stockholm syndrome sometimes. Like, you better love it down. Otherwise, it's not worth it. So it's really important to me that people are so truly passionate about community. And that shows to me through a temporary position or volunteership or an internship where they are still getting compensated in one way. But it is an opportunity. Like, we have a bunch of volunteers right now, and there's always, we brought on like 10, and within 2 weeks, right, like half of them are going to fall off because they're like, well, and that's okay. Like, that's so totally fine, and I would rather them figure that out. But it's like, that's not someone I want to hire on and do an entire onboarding training with and then pay. So I would find ways to really give people an opportunity to show you how much they love what you're doing before you fully commit them to some sort of role, because it's a lot of trust to hand that over to someone for sure.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone else?
Let's say you found out that somebody was being inappropriate or rude post-event. What's your approach to dealing with that situation? Because you can respond to something when it happens at an event, and you take them out, take them away, tell them to go home. But what do you do when you hear about a post-event? Do you have protocol for that?
Is it like something, sorry to clarify, like something happened at the event but you're hearing about it after?
Correct.
Okay.
It was regarding this one person who's being rude to people at your event. How do you approach that situation? I'm speaking like, do we make a post about that, like a public post about how people felt, or do we directly reach out to the person and then say, hey, we heard about your behavior at the event, like what do you suggest that an event organizer do in that situation?
Yeah. I'm like, sometimes the queers are messy. So this is something like, we don't really get it often, but I think it's something that everyone can benefit prepping for. My policy on things always is going to be rooted in a sense of restorative justice. I do not think people should lose access to community because they did something shitty for a second. Obviously, this is very nuanced in terms of things, but let's say speaking in regards to like, someone had a bad night, someone freaked out at someone, there's obviously going to be a scale of comfort for you. And I also think I'm sorry because this isn't very direct, I'm like leaning into all the nuance of it, but like it also depends on how big the event is going to be, where they're next showing up. So I kind of have a couple different approaches to it. One thing I love about POSH, I'm like unintentional plug, but is that like other people can also see who's coming to the event. So it's pretty common for people to come to me and be like, hey, I had a really like horrible instance with this person, maybe not even at one of my events, but like a past experience outside of my events. One, I'm like, what event are you trying to come to, right? Because if you're trying to come to a 20-person craft class in the studio, we are probably going to have to address that issue. Whereas if we're at a bar with 700 people, I'm just like, unless it's a safety issue, let's just go to different sides of the venue. To me, it's very like, you kind of get to set where your lines are, but for me, it's like, if someone was generally weird, right? So like a whole thing with my collective is that it's friendship forward. I really am not okay with people coming into the space and leaning into it by being like, oh, I'm trying to find a girlfriend, I'm trying to find a partner. A lot of our attendees feel really safe knowing that they're coming into a friendship forward space. I take that as an opportunity to not make anyone feel bad, but to just restate our rules. I'll take that as an opportunity to get on socials, restate what our house rules are, our policies, what we expect from people. You know, if they continue pushing that narrative of like, no, I'm here to find a partner, I can have that individual conversation with them. If there is some sort of like safety concern, right, that's where we're going into completely different territory, and depending on what it is, I might not be qualified to have that conversation. But I would have that conversation with someone and reach out to them before having them come back. So like an example of this would be like, I had someone freak out at their ex at a party at 2 a.m. That's like the only person I've ever had to kick out of an event. And my game plan was, had I seen them buy another ticket or RSVP to a future event, it would have been a personal like message to them, just being like, hey, that really sucked. No one was having a fun time in that moment. I would really like to have a discussion with you before you re-enter our space. There's so many different ways to go about it. But I also I always try to get as much information as people are willing to share, because let's say it is like not a safety concern, but it's like they make me feel really uncomfortable. I want to know who both of them are, just so that me and my team have it on our minds, right? So we can keep an eye out in a 700 person party that like if we see those two people coming together often, you know, we're comfortable walking up if we need to separate people. So I know that's not like a direct answer to your question. There's a lot of nuance to it, and obviously that can really, really vary. But I think really just always leading with the intention of like, how can I keep up the ethos of my space while making sure everyone feels welcome, and like, is some sort of restorative justice needed in this conversation in order for those things to be upheld?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Cool. Cool. Yeah.
Oh, Ms. Kim.
I just want to add on to that because one thing that I think is a really great practice that I've witnessed, and we actually have two of the team members here too from the Party Collective, Party Noir.
Love.
Firstly, they're one of the like
10 years.
oldest like modern
Yes,
like,
10 years.
Party Collective, so I definitely want to uplift that in this conversation as well. But on top of that, I think something that I have recognized that they've done within their parties that have made me feel very safe is that they actually designate specific people that you can go to if you are in crisis at certain parties. And I think that that's something that is something that I feel like is a very noticeably important thing to know that if I am in physically in a space where there is something that is going wrong, one, yes, sure, I can DM, the collective after, but it's nice to know that there are immediate resources where I can seek refuge, even if maybe that designated person. I know certain bars do like, say ask for Alexandra or something like that. You know what I mean? Specific code words in the bathrooms or
Like an angel shot.
Yeah. Social media, like making those like immediate resources clear. Because sometimes, unfortunately, like you will get into a negative experience will happen and you don't really know what to do until later. But having that clarity of like these are people that you can come to, I think is super helpful too.
Yeah,
Love.
absolutely.
Love that. Yeah.
Thanks, Ken.
Anyone else? Any
Shout out
questions,
Party
thoughts?
Noir.
Yeah, no, truly. Okay. I would love, I have a lot of questions, but I would love to know within each of your events, like how do you kind of keep a common red thread or foundation? Like what is that for you at each event? And then on top of that, how do you make there be a variety of events, right? Like how do you keep this ethos and brand consistent through all events while also keeping them fun and fresh and like something new for people every time, so they're not coming to essentially the exact same party or like exact same community experience each, let's say, weekend or month?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in keeping the lineup fresh, right? Like, especially in today's day and age, if I'm asking people to spend their money, their time on what I'm doing, I'm gonna keep it fresh. Because if you see, like I said, I come from comedy, like a lot of comedy theaters, and I understand, like, because maybe people don't got the time to go out and explore new, they have the same people on the lineup. They're phenomenal, talented people, but if you see them 1, 2, 3 times, what's gonna get you there on the 4th time, right? And so I'm really grateful that, I'll use Lipstick Lounge as an example. Lipstick Lounge has really been growing and it's been very special and beautiful, but I book brand new people each and every time because we are not lacking talent here in Chicago. I think it just requires a little bit more energy from the promoters to know who's in the scene, to go to these shows, to put ourselves in brand new spaces, because if we keep relying, I mean, there are party collectives that have your like go-to DJs, and like when you know the music is good, you're gonna go. I was just talking to someone, I'm like, there's nothing worse than going to a club and it's bad music. Period. That's like paying top dollar for shitty food. That's the worst fucking thing. And so I think like I'm really grateful. Like I said, the community is vast. And for Lipstick Lounge, at least, my lineup with the drag, the vendors, the DJs, it's always about 80% Latina. And that's just what I do. That's just important to me. And so, like I said, there's always talent to be seen and out there. And it's also like if I'm putting on a premium show, it's gonna be brand new people each and every time. So it's a little bit more work for me, but it's work that again will be impressionable on people later. Que viva Latinas!
Do you have any thoughts on that one?
I think similarly, yeah, just like sourcing from your community is really important, yeah, and like finding the new stuff and keeping it fresh. I mean, we do it at the Garden of parties, like there's always new people. The venue's the same, but we always try and bring in new folks, and I think it always brings in a different crowd. I've been watching at the Garden of events, even like with the new drag performers we bring in and like all this, like the different type of people that start coming to them. So like even feels like a new party, even though it's like in the same venue and like is kind of the same
Similar
kind of
like
vibe.
structure, yeah.
But it like still feels kind of like new and fresh because like new faces, new and everything too. So I'm like sourcing from your community and finding talent is I think really important for that too.
It's also so fun to give people a platform. Like for example, our resident tattoo artist, she's also DJing now. And like I told her, I'm like, you can tattoo or DJ. Let me know what you want to do at this party. And so it feels like so special, and that's why I love having my events. Like I'm someone that moved out at 18, right? Like I hated authority. As a matter of fact, I had an authority kink for a couple of years growing up. That's not here nor there. But I love the idea that I don't gotta check in with anybody. Like if I think someone deserves a platform, done. Like that's it. And so I think it's also using our platform for people that are kind of wanting to try something out that they don't really have other places to do so. Do it with us.
Oh, absolutely. Has anyone read the book The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker? We got a couple nods, so I can't read, but I did listen to a podcast. I did listen to a podcast with Priya Parker, and it was actually like kind of in the beginning of my hosting, and it like has stuck with me, and it has truly bled through like quite literally everything I have ever done since. Like Seth said, we really try to have a new cast similarly. Like I will go into debt for drag performers. Like we have like a free party coming up and I booked like 10 and I was like, oh, sorry to our person on our bookkeeping, have fun with that one. But I love having a diverse like team. We do a different theme for every party. So we have Dykes and Denim coming up. We just did like back to school, what have you. But one of my favorite things about Priya Parker's book is she is talking about, I've heard allegedly about the book, is that she talks about one of the many amazing things she talks about is that parties cannot just be parties, and there has to be something for people to connect over and build on together that isn't just like, we are here for a birthday party, we are here for a baby shower. And one of the examples she gives is that one of her friends wanted to host a dinner party for moms, and her friend came to her, was like, please help me plan this. And she was like, okay, what do you need help with? And she was like, oh, it's just gonna be a dinner party for moms. And she was like, well, absolutely not. Like, how does that set up anyone for success to connect and build on each other? And so they set up this rule that if anyone at the party talked about their kids, they had to take a shot. And I loved that. Like, that stuck with me so hardcore. Like, that is such a little thing that gets people to bond. And even just like walking up to other moms, I have no kids, I don't know. But just being like, okay, so we can't talk about our kids. Like, that is an opener in and of itself of like, what do we talk about if not our children, right? Or like, at a lot of our themed parties, even if there isn't like a massive theme, I'll give people like a question prompt. Like we did a US gay party and I was like, everyone ask what your like one policy would be if you were president. And it just gave people this opportunity to walk up to strangers and like start a conversation. And I just loved that part of her book of being like, how can we take it one step further from just like, yeah, a great space with great people. How can we give them this jumping off point to actually connect with each other? Because that's how we build genuine community within a space.
People love a prompt.
Yes.
It's like apples to apples. People will play that no matter what age. Like I had a networking event where people had a like a questionnaire, and the colors of the name tag was based off of what they were looking for. So if you were looking for connections, if you were looking for mentorship, if you were looking for opportunity, or if you're looking for anything like that way, it wasn't like, so what are you doing here? Or like, oh, how did you hear about this? It was just immediate and intentional, because same thing, like small talk, I don't care about the clouds. I don't care about what the sports and whatever the fuck we're talking about, but if there is a way that we can set up the goers to just kind of cut through that and talk about some real stuff, like every single person who was back there, we were talking about what, like we were drinking water, we were just talking about real shit and connecting over, yes, what we're doing here, and also people want to share, but people don't know, sometimes people need permission. Like something that happens at the comedy events at the top, I'll set people up, I'm like, hey, if you guys think something is funny, what are we gonna do? Laugh, exactly. And even just kind of having those check-ins with people, like I see something switch for them that it's like, I think again, you know, post-COVID, people need permission to share about themselves, to talk about what they're passionate about, because they don't think people want to listen. So how can we set people up to already have those without the burden on them needing to have the people skills?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, like, know your demographic. Like,
Yeah.
I know that feels obvious, but like, I have to structure our 21 to 25-year-old events very differently than our 30 plus ones. no tea, no shade to anyone in the 21 to 25 group, but like y'all grew up in COVID. So like your social skills are just naturally very different. That is not for worse or better. But like I have noticed a very stark difference in 21 to 25-year-olds' ability to pick up a conversation very quickly in person because they didn't have that ability for their entire like young adult lives. Basically, they were on their phones in COVID and quarantine. Whereas those of us that are 30 plus, we grow up very differently. We also probably grew up without social media for a very long time. So I think that's really important to kind of know exactly who you're tailoring to and give them those prompts, right? We hosted an 18 to 20-year-old like little lesbian event, which was the cutest thing I've ever done in my entire life. They were babies. Oh my God. But it was, Seth was there with me, and there was a like 10-minute period at the beginning where I was like, we might have to go teach them how to start a conversation. Like, they literally did not know how to even, like, they just sat there like this, literally staring at each other. And I was like, bless. Thankfully, a yapper came through. No, literally. Thankfully, you just need one yapper, and she eventually came through and she kicked it off, and they found their way. But like, truly know your demographic and like know who needs help and what you can do for that.
That's special.
Yeah.
So I'm hosting a press-on workshop for Latinas who right now probably are not taking care of themselves and they need that moment to escape. How do I cultivate that space in which they feel like they are taking that time to just escape from all the darkness, but not be tone deaf? I think that that's something that I'm a very optimistic person, but then when reality hits, I'm like, I can't find the balance of it, if that makes sense. So I just want to ensure that this event that I'm hosting is providing them with the opportunity to escape from reality while also recognizing the reality that we're living in. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm gonna take it from an improv perspective. So at the beginning of every single show we do, we all get in a circle and we all check in, because we can't even start to do art, we can't even start to play, we can't even start to do anything unless I know exactly where you're coming from. And so I know it's like not like, you know, nothing glamorous, and it's not like reinventing the wheel like I'm a big believer in, but it literally can just be like, let's talk about every single thing for like 10 minutes, curated, right? Because we're running the show, we're driving the car. And so if we have that time where we can hear exactly where you're coming from, and then even like do a collective breath and being like, okay, for the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, you're allowed to feel joy, check whatever we have going on at the door, like you're allowed to be present and immerse yourself in this, because I think that that's so hard right now, is to be present. Like I was just talking about this quote earlier, that it's like, depression is when you're living in the past and anxiety is when you're living in the future. So how do we live in the present, right? And I think that you having that intention of you wanting that for these goers, they're gonna follow you. You have that energy, I can feel your optimism just in the conversation we have, like they will feed off of you, and them knowing that there's going to be an ending where they're able to be responsible again to pick up what they're holding up, like they're gonna enjoy this exact moment because they know that it's finite, you know?
I also think like pre-communication can never be too much. Like pre-event, you can never over-communicate pre-event. Like you only fail in every situation if you don't set expectations. We talked about this a lot, like in the wedding photography world, because people will always like not communicate something with their client, and then their clients are furious post-wedding. I know this is like a very niche example, but it was like, did you communicate that with them? Like, did you tell them what the turnaround time was? No, then yeah, they have a right to be mad, right? And I think that can also be applied to our events in the sense that like, when you're sharing the event, being like, hey, times are ass right now. This is your 2-hour period to forget the world around you, right? It does not eradicate how awful everything is right now. However, I want to provide this safe and comfortable space of levity. Let's protect that for each other, right? Because that's also our thing as an organizer. And from what I've heard, Priya also talks about this in her book, is that like, it is, whether it is uncomfortable or not, it is always our responsibility as the organizer to not only protect our patrons, but also their energy and experience. Like there should be safety protocols always, but on top of that, there should be for their like emotional and mental well-being. And so I think you cannot over communicate enough of like, hey, let's not talk about how dark things are right now. Like if you need, please reach out. Yeah, or take a shot. Like, right? Like, and also like provide them an alternate route, right? Like we're always here, or here's some other events that you can come to debrief that, and to like, here's some other systems that you can rely on if you're having a really hard time with this, or this, right? You can always reroute them. It doesn't have to be this dead end, but setting the expectation of like, hey, we really we really protect like the peace and sanctity of this 2 hours. And that is, you know, you owe that to every other attendee there, to protect that space if someone does kind of almost like break that trust, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, good luck. Yeah. Yeah,
Quick question, what was the podcast and what's the comedy club?
Podcast, go ahead. Okay.
Me, I'm like, if Priya Parker was a guest on it, but if you look up Priya Parker, The Art of Gathering, it'll be there.
Yeah.
Me looking at you because you nodded your head that you read it. I'm like, right, Derek? Like,
Yeah, there's 3 pretty big institutions in Chicago. Second City is the first one, which is like what people move here for. IO Theater, which is Improv Olympics, is the second biggest one. This is where like Amy Poehler, Tina Fey came from. And then the third one is the Annoyance. Annoyance is like the indie theater, the alt comedy, the like majority of the queer people go there. Like it's cool, and that's where I host Lipstick Lounge. So unfortunately, those are majority on the north side, but I hear that there's a couple of my friends, which I'm really grateful for, putting together a theater in Pilsen, which cannot wait for that. Yeah.
I think we had a question back here.
I did see a hand.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say a comment. There were like 2 things that came to mind for me, and both of you have touched on it, but just about some of the ways that you're intentional in getting people to interact with each other. I think both in the professional setting, where like you might be meeting a work connection, but then also like social interactions. Part of the reason it's so important is like we put this, especially I think more in specifically people of color, this emphasis on like you're clout chasing, and so it like creates this environment where I could make this awesome connection, work or socially, but I'm like afraid. I don't want to be seen to be trying too much. So like the name tag, I feel like that cuts the fluff in a good way of like here's how we align. Without me having to play the, did I ask you about your cat enough to get to the stuff that we're here for?
Absolutely.
So like, I really like that. And then just one other thing with the about like a safe space and navigating when people may kind of break that trust of this is maybe not the environment to like spill over, which a lot of us are on the verge of spilling over all the time. A lot of the programs that I do are wellness, and so I always try to have that like subspecialty person there because it's like I can coach you, but I am not that person, right? So in the event that you do spill, I feel like better than putting people out is saying, you know what, I have a resource for you here right now. This mental health professional or however it's curated to the specific event, I'm going to connect you with them. So then that person starts engaging, and it becomes their responsibility to de-escalate and regulate the person, which usually does lead towards, you know what I mean, shifting you to the door, right? But in a way that feels compassionate, because, I mean, it is, sometimes it feels hard. Yeah, 2 hours, and I'm trying to push it, but I can't. And so that, like, is the alternative or the safety net in my head. Because it's like, it's so much pressure even for the organizer. So how do you diffuse that when it happens? Because like, you know, when we're creating safe space or queer safe space for people that may not otherwise have it, a part of feeling safe is that like, I can let it out, you know? So.
I love that.
Yeah, I really appreciated what you said about the resources. And then like going back to like networking, like the one thing to me was like, I think people are so intimidated by networking events because we feel like we gotta be like a walking resume, right? Like I gotta have my 3 to 5 year plan, I gotta have like things that I'm good at and stuff. But I think like when we take it as, when we kind of like break that apart, it's about community, right? Like we are coming here to like say, hey, I'm here to share what I got. Like I wanna meet y'all, and then hopefully y'all will see something within me to like kind of take the next step. Because again, you know, I'm gonna say this like 10,000 times, might even get a tramp stamp of it. Like people remember how you make them feel, right? Like regardless of like whether you're like a top-notch photographer, XYZ, if you come in and like I can feel your energy is either like, yeah, like you deserve to meet me, or also on the flip side of it's like, yeah, I don't even know if like I'm even like, I can feel that. And so I think more than anything, like I love setting people up for success, but also, yeah, it's like, let's take it down a step. Like networking events need to stop being so like over glorified to be like, yeah, we are promising you like a job. Like, no, you should be promising connection. like, how are you setting up people for connection? You know what I mean? Not like you, that's a rhetorical question. How are you setting people up for connection? I'm just kidding. I know that we had a question over here.
Sorry, I'm late.
You're great.
You look beautiful.
And that's important.
I just wanted to, I guess, like, kind of piggyback, but also, like, softly tangent into the safe space conversation. So I work very strongly in the world of burlesque. I'm both a performer and a burlesque producer.
What's your name?
Part of me.
Okay, good.
And I actually kind of like took the long way into that because yes, I am a Party Noir OG. So I have comfortability in being in like party spaces and also in show production spaces. And long story short, I host professionally when I don't do all the other shit that I said. And one thing that I took from the burlesque world that I actually applied to the party world, and I think like this is very important for folks, regardless of what type of event you're hosting, is even if you don't have a designated host, titled host, there should be someone that feels comfortable enough to state the house rules, both verbally, over the microphone, like just saying, you know, hey, like for example, I also host a party called Gyrate, and yeah, I do talk my shit on the mic, I joke, I laugh, blah, 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 but between each DJ, I tell everyone consent is mandatory. I go down what consent means for people who may not understand the nuance to consent. I talk about it being a safe space. I talk about it being an inclusive space. And it's no shade to the straight or the masculine-centered led events, but like that is something that unfortunately does not cross over into those spaces. And there are instances where, yes, things happen in people's parties, even if they are all are welcome. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the queer spaces that is like, we know better, because when we walk in the door, we've seen it online, we've heard it, it's been talked about, blah, blah, blah. But unfortunately, there are a lot of spaces that do not have that person there saying this on the microphone. They don't have it on their Instagram account. They don't have it on their party, you know, RSVP area. So unfortunately, you have it's a beautiful event as far as diversity is concerned, but unfortunately, people, some that are coming to these events don't even know, haven't heard, like you said, you know, used to being isolated, used to like big things like I'm a twerker, you know, all the twerkers in the room know, if you know, you know. I don't care if I'm out here thunder clapping, don't touch me. Don't put your hands on me. Don't put my if I'm not inviting you, you know, and it's like, it's so easy to talk about when we're not in the room, you know, whoever indulges. If you do what you do, your party, you know what I'm saying, when you come up in the door, we all wrong, you know how it goes. I think it's really, really important to be in the sense of like, offense, when you trying to prevent it, instead of like being reactionary. And like, we have a lot of suggestions on how to take care of things in the aftermath, but I feel like we need to be more proactive in saying like, hey, don't try that here. Let's not even have a point where we have to even have that conversation, and I think that's something that people should really consider, like, just a quick, like, every, you know, maybe top of the hour, hey, friendly reminder, thank y'all for coming out, please blah, 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 and you know that if you have a problem with that, or if there's something that, you know, you have a question about the designated person, you know what I'm saying, or, you know, like, those other things can absolutely play into, you know, this entire ecosystem of like care and safe space, because people keep saying safe space, like it is a social media buzzword at this point, but people really don't either know how to, never had the conversation, don't even know what the parameters of safe space and consent actually are in like real time. And where I learned that was burlesque, because yeah, I'm walking around the room naked, I wish you would. So I feel like that same like level of, you know, burlesque producers and burlesque, you know, show performers, like they say at the top of the show, they say that, you know, the second half of the intermission, like I think if a lot of the event and party spaces that are not necessarily that exact same lane, like I think if that started to be implemented a little bit more, a lot of the circumstances that do happen, and you hear about it because people call stuff out on social media actually, be, if not all the way prevented, because people just gonna people, at least folks will know if something were to happen, that like, I don't have to have a bunch of anxiety around how to handle this in like the after.
Absolutely.
I think that's great. I think I can absolutely incorporate that because I at least at Lipstick Lounge we have imagery just constantly playing and it's a lot of like uplifting messaging. But I think that's great. That's a great note. I would love to do that more.
Yeah.
Yeah, every hour. I'd love to host. I was screaming about it.
I love that. Yeah, it really is like so on the front end. So I think too, like one of the ways I love the idea of doing it at the top of the hour. So thank you for that. That's such a good idea. And like we also have like anytime on POSH you can link things when people are buying a ticket, you have to read our code of conduct. Like, and I'm very explicit in exactly what is okay within that space and what that looks like. So again, you can't over communicate things like that. And it really is our entire job to protect our patrons in our spaces. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Talk to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you saying that like when you're event listing, people have to read that before they like RSVP, or like are you saying you include it in your?
Yeah, so like in the event write-up, like at the very bottom where you would click buy ticket, it says like if you have not read our, I don't think they have to necessarily like click it to purchase. I don't know if POSH has that ability, but it is right next to the purchase button. We say like, please read both our house rules and our code of conduct before you purchase a ticket on every event, even free ones. Yeah, I mean, I think that's also like, yeah, I think that's where like social media is going to come into play a lot for all of us, is just like pushing that. No.
Got two non-readers in the house.
No, literally, no, I mean.
Yeah, or like pinning the code of conduct. I think that's
Yeah, no, I'm
great.
like, it's pinned on our Instagram story or our Instagram feed,
Yeah.
the code of conduct.
Yeah, code of conduct's pinned, it's on every website, it's on every ticket, and then before any party, obviously like every event, like 20 people is gonna be a little bit different, but like our parties are typically 500 to 700 people, and so we are like screaming for, I'm like graphic for every single part of the code of conduct is going live, and I usually do the day before the party and the day of, just so that it is abundantly clear. And I also think like, there's something to say if you're working at a venue that hires security, like the venues that we work with a lot, they hire security. I also hire my own security on top of that. So it is people within our community working the door, so that they are very aligned with our values. We always have queer people working the door to make it abundantly clear that like this is the space that you're walking into, and they are well versed in what our policies are, as well as having someone on the floor. I always suggest as well, if you're looking at a big group of people, we always have security walking within the groups at all times. Yeah.
Hell yeah, let's keep it going.
Did anyone else go? Okay, well, we'll kind of like start wrapping up, but I would love to hear from both of you. Yeah, your turn. Just kind of like, what, if you could give like one piece of advice, and I know that's always difficult to pin down, but like something that is just been really impactful for you as an organizer, or that you've even heard has been really impactful for your attendees, like what advice or piece of information would you share with people?
Hit it.
Oh, sure. I think for me specifically, and I know this can't go for everyone, is like just creating something personal. Like, I mean, I think the whole point of this is like, yeah, building community at events. Like, yes, we host events, but like it's part of the, like, we're trying to build community, and like you can't really do that without creating something personal and that like means something to you. There was something in the little questions, we didn't like say it verbatim, but it was like, when did you figure out that you were doing something more than events, like you were building community? And for me, it's like, that's all I've been doing. Like, it was always community first, and then I was like, oh cool, I can host an event. That sounds like really fun. So I'm like, for me, it's like, I am very personal with everyone. Like, people that will come to events will be like, oh, like we've messaged, like we've talked about this and that and that, and do I remember their face? No. But I can be like, oh, I remember that conversation. That's crazy. So I'm like just trying to be very personal with these people and just like care about them. I'm like, it's especially at like the 600-700 people parties, it's like obviously for a lot of it, it's like hard to show that amount of care, but I'm like, I think there's like other ways outside of just at the event that you can do that. And just, yeah, being real and that sort of thing on like socials and post or pre-parties, post-parties, and that sort of thing, for sure.
Hell yeah. I love that question too, because again, like, we just needed a Latino presence in one of these theaters. Like, that's where I'm operating from. Like, I wasn't trying to like make it too glitz or glamoury. And it's been so special because even to this day, I started Escándalo, my comedy team. I started it almost 2 years ago. No other Latino teams at any of the 3 theaters still. Like, and so I am like, I have a passion. I'm like trying to make improv sexy. How many of y'all know what improv is? Okay, period. I was like, yeah, nobody knows what improv is. And like, I just like put all of my energy into making the graphics cool, like making it so like appealing that you're gonna show up. And like, I operate from a place of like, if you are gonna do an event and you're trying to solve a problem with an event, you're never gonna run out of steam, right? Like, I love a good fluff event, but in today's day and age, like I said, with people spending their money, spending their time with you, it's like, what are they leaving with? Are they leaving with the connection? Are they leaving with a new perspective? Are they leaving feeling better, empowered about themselves? And so like for me, when I really like figured out that like we were making an impact with these events was at Chisme, which is the queer Latina show that I run out of Dorothy's, like that first event, 120 people, and they were like young Latinas. And like they, like so many of them came up to me, they're like, I've never seen anything like this, I didn't even know we could. And it's like, that's when like my fire was lighting even more, because I went from Escándalo to showcasing my friends. We are a team of 18. What drives me is that each one of them should be on SNL. Instead of like, no tea, no shade, you know, like the new cast that was just fucking come out. But like for example, like my best friend, she was shortlisted to be on SNL. She made it to like the final rounds. But the guy that came to see her audition missed his flight. And so she just never got the opportunity. And it like drives me to create a platform, to put us online, to like put us in people's faces, because we need to be seen. But for Chisme, it shifted because then it became about the community. Then it became about all of these like young Latinas that have never had queer elders before. Because I think I have always been queer, but I didn't know what it could look like. Right? When we were younger, we're just like seeing them in movies and stuff, but are they in our community? Are they giving us advice? Are they like complimenting our quirky little outfit that they can see it when we can't see it ourselves? And so like that's what drives me, is being like that person, like again, triple fire sign. And also something that I didn't even talk about here, I'm sober. I'm Cali sober, so I just smoke a little weed. But like, but I don't drink, and that really 180'd my life. Because it went from me thinking I was like the best party girl, so I'm gonna be the best party girl you've ever seen, to then me having to shift and pour into this community. And it's just like, it's really changing my life, because I'm very present every single time. Now the one thing that I think that we didn't talk about in the questions is how do we keep from burnout? Because burnout is really fucking real. Like, no matter if you're doing something beautiful for the community, like if we don't have any boundaries with ourselves and we are just giving, that is now harmful to us. So I went from being like, you know, drinking a lot, harmful to me, to then going from like, I'm giving so much to the community, it's still harmful to me, right? And so like, I think it's about not going from extremes to extremes and finding a balance that works for us. So like, for example, like, and I'll wrap this up soon, but I'm just so passionate about this. I'm a part of this mentorship program, which if anybody's interested, it's like majority BIPOC women. Come talk to me afterwards, I would love to plug it for y'all. But we had a speaker this past time, and she spoke about her life in seasons. And that really like released me from thinking that my identity was wrapped into my events and what I'm doing. Like I worked myself very hard this year, like from March to like this upcoming week, all of my shows are pretty much done. And like, I thought that there was no end in sight, that this was just the way my engagement with community was gonna look like, that I had no time to like see my friends, or like I had no time to like plug myself, because like I'm a producer, but I'm also an artist, I'm a comedian. Like I have dreams, I want to be seen. And so like I encourage y'all to kind of just like realize that in this season of our life, we might never be here again, right? And that's like our work ethic, and that's how much of ourselves we're pouring into places. And so like if we're feeling extreme burnout right now, like if your perspective is changing, like keep that head held high and know that you are going to end this season out with honor and dignity. And so like, instead of just kind of like allowing myself to like, you know, go with the tide, like I'm tired as hell, but like I feel so honored to be on panels like this, to be connecting with people, and knowing that I won't ever push myself to that boundary anymore. So the one thing that I would like encourage any event producer is that your form of activism or event doesn't have to look like anybody else's. Like there's a lot of people in our community, I'm late to the Sapphic community, but people do things a certain type of way, and that's not the way I'm gonna do it, nor do I feel pressure to follow their protocol. I think community is wonderful. I think I just learned something new today about protocol, but I think ultimately it's about what problem are you trying to solve, and how are you doing it on your own terms?
Love. Love. I think the only thing I'll say as well, because you guys covered all of that so beautifully, it kind of goes along with like preventing burnout and what to focus on, is just like keep your ethos top of mind. Like have a very clear ethos and goal and have that bleed through everything you do. And I think a really huge moment that changed everything for me as I was about to burn out and just crash and burn the whole thing, was reminding myself and having people remind me that I too am able to and should partake in the community that I've built. And I think that is something that is really hard for us organizers, is we want to be the parent of it and we want to help others and we want to pour into others, but a true community supports you as well. And that completely changed my capability of being an event organizer, was being able to turn to the community that I had built and been like, hey, I'm tired. I'm like, we have like a Discord of like 700 Saphics, and I literally, there's a channel for help, and I remember posting and being like, I'm gonna be so real, I'm almost done. Like I truly can't do it anymore. It's just me. And it was so beautiful to see it work as a genuine community that turned around and said, you have done this, now we can do this, and this. So we have so many beautiful people in our community that either regularly or one-off come in to support me and the studio and the collective and help us run it. Like, don't be afraid to engage in the community that you've built and let them support you as much as you support them, because I truly think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So that would be my advice.
Oh, yeah.